You are listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. For this episode, I had a conversation with Hutch Harris from the Thermals. We get into Hutch seeing a few legendary Bay Area propaganda shows in the early 90s, his memories of those early times, the influence of propaganda on the Thermals, and then we touch on some of his favorite songs like Who Will Help Me Bake This Bread, Pigs Will Pay, and We Thought That Nation States Were a Bad Idea. His tunes are at hutchharris.bandcamp.com, and you can find the Thermals discography available from Sub Pop Records, Kill Rock Stars, and Saddle Creek Records. Enjoy. Hutch Harris, welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
Excellent. Thank you very much for being here on a Friday afternoon, Hutch. It's great to have you here. I'm wondering if we can start off by having you talk a little bit about what you're up to these days. I know you were just on tour with Kevin Seconds and Kepi Gooley. What you got going on these days?
Yeah, I just got home from tour. I don't tour very much at all, but Kepi and Kevin are good at getting me at least down to California. I've done shows with both of them for the past couple years. About 3 years ago, Kepi just got in touch. He was like, come do some shows in the Bay Area. So we did that for a couple years in a row, and Kevin joined us for some of those. And then just recently went down to LA and then also did Northern California. And now I'm back. I'm actually starting a project today. I do some like TV work from time to time, usually for kids shows. So I just got a new project today that I am working on.
Awesome. Very cool. And I know that you have a really recent record out as well. How is that going for you?
Yes, that is great. Yeah, I think just a week. Yeah, it came out a week ago today. Yeah, it's called Not Everyone Is Loved. Yeah, it's on my Bandcamp. It's on all the streaming sites. That's been great. Yeah, that's the third solo record I've done since leaving the Thermals, since the Thermals broke up. Yeah, it's great. I record all my records just here at my house. I have a little studio here. Yeah, and that was really nice. You know, when I make records at home, I have all the time to take as long as I want, which isn't always a great thing. So usually I take like about a year to make a record.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's nice to be done with that.
Wonderful. Well, how I know the reason why you came back into my radar recently is because I got super addicted to your Instagram covers series where you covered hundreds of songs basically on request, and I dug through all of them and I found your Weaker Thans cover for oh my gosh, what was the title of it again?
It's like Confessions of an Armchair or a
Futon Revolutionary.
Right.
Yeah. How did you like that covers project?
I loved it. That was the thing where I was like, I had like I don't know, I had like a couple weeks where I didn't have anything going on, and I was like, hey, I'll send me $25 and I'll cover any song. I'll post it. I'll tag you. I can do like dedications and stuff. And it was one of those things where I thought we would go for like 2 weeks, you know, maybe get like 10 or 20 requests. And then it went for 6 months. And it kept going. I had to put it on pause just to so I could go on tour and stuff and do other stuff. But yeah, I posted close to, I think I had like 260 requests.
Wow.
But yeah, it was super fun. And I got really good and fast at doing songs, but it was definitely still a lot of work. And it was something I was doing every single day.
Yeah, I really liked your Neutral Milk Hotel ones on piano.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah.
I really liked the Futon Revolutionary one, obviously by John K. Samson, but I also really loved your ones that were totally out of left field, like Lamb of God was in there.
Right.
And so there was a wide variety of cool stuff that you got to do. I went through the entire thing because I was like, I wonder if he ever did propaganda. And so that's where I was like, I have to reach out now after watching this John K. Samson cover from the Weaker Thans. Like, I got to get in touch. But that's how you kind of came back into my my radar. And then I've been on kind of like a Thermals bender for like
nice.
The last 5 days or so. Dug into The Body, The Blood, The Machine, a whole bunch this week. So Hutch, let's go back in time a little bit. Tell me a little bit about like your origin story within punk rock and finding this kind of music that kind of binds us all together.
I think I had like the classic introduction that a lot of people of my generation did, which is like, I'm going to high school in the 90s, junior high in the 80s, and we were like passing cassettes back and forth, so I think all the punk bands that I originally heard were just like on mixtapes that just a couple friends of mine had given to me. I had a friend, Mike Butler, who was from San Jose, California, where I'm from. Um, he gave me just like a classic Descendants, Minor Threat, um, mixed cassette tape, and then another friend of mine, Aaron Thompson, he gave me he would make mixes for me that had like Bad Religion, Exploited, Dead Kennedys, Circle Jerks, Black Flag. So yeah, so that's probably when I'm like 13 or 14,
Hmm.
15. And that's like the same time that kind of like the mainstream punk explosion is happening, Nirvana and Green Day, and then like the Offspring, etc. um so yeah, that was a good time to get into to punk for sure. But yeah, it's just like I feel like most people I know, you just hear about things, it's all pre-internet, so you just hear about things through word of mouth and through your friends
Hmm.
turning you on to bands.
Excellent. Where does Propaganda slide into your awareness?
So I had a friend, another Mike Stewart, who I was playing in bands with, and he loved them. And he gave me How to Clean Everything must have like just come out, and he just knew it and heard. They weren't uh, they weren't very well known in the Bay Area where I was from, but he was super into it. And he was, he followed all the Fat Records bands. So I think if you kind of knew Fat Records, then you were just aware of like like every record that was coming out on the label. And then they played Christmas night in San Jose. So it must have been 93, I think, because that record had just come out. Um, I think it was 93.
Hmm.
They played with All You Can Eat, which was like a North Bay band. And you know what's so funny? I know I was telling you this when you messaged me about this podcast. I was telling you I saw them. They played like both bands set up and then they just took turns playing songs like one after another. And
Hmm.
then so I was telling you that the day that I saw them on Christmas night. And then I went to Santa Cruz that night. I was still on tour, and I saw Danny Buzzard, who was actually from All You Can Eat. And so I mentioned that show to him, and he said that they had been on tour with Propagandhi, and that they had been doing that in every city. And I thought it was just kind of this random, silly thing that they did in in San Jose. I don't know why, but yeah, they were just doing that, and it was like ridiculous because I mean, I've never seen that. Like, it's funny because Kepi and Kevin and I were doing that acoustic. Like, it's one thing when you see like songwriters do that. I'd never since seen two bands set up. It was at like a VFW hall. It was just like at just kind of like an Elks Lodge or something. There was no stage. Both bands just set up on the floor, and they're it was not that crowded at all. It was not like a big show because I mean, All You Can Eat was a loved band, in that area. But no one really knew who Propagandhi was. But also, it was Christmas night, so there was a lot of people that can't get out to a show. But we were like,
Right.
we just all told our parents like we need to go to this show. Yeah, and then that's like one of the best punk shows I've ever seen for sure.
Okay, so I just went on setlist.fm and that show isn't listed, but I know that this is going on right around there because on the 28th of December, they're listed at the Cattle Club in Sacramento.
Oh yeah,
On the 29th, they're listed at Hot Spots in Santa Rosa. So they were hitting every Northern
yeah,
California
yeah,
town
yeah.
that week.
Right.
Man, now we're gonna have to add this show to setlist.fm.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
for sure.
slacking. That's really cool. So what did you what do you most remember about that show? Was there any like commentary? Was this like the very angry Chris Hanna era? Were they chatty on stage? Anything else that you remember about that particular Christmas show?
It wasn't angry because I saw them a couple years later at Gilman, and that was definitely
Mm.
in the angry era. But yeah, they were just very kind of chill and quiet and polite. It wasn't yeah, which was funny because All You Can Eat is like very loud and boisterous, and they're all jumping around and kind of going nuts. So Propaganda was pretty chill compared to them. Um, but you can tell when your songs are that good, especially on that first record, you can just get by on your songs. And I don't think you need to like oversell it uh, at all. But yeah,
Gotcha.
it wasn't like subdued, but it just wasn't. Again, this is probably. I mean, maybe they had toured a while before that record, but it was definitely it wasn't like when I saw them later and it was like a whole packed place for them. Um, people didn't really know who they are, so they were kind of just like they were just a little more chill.
Gotcha. Well, 6 months later, in June of '94, they were back in California. June 6th, 1994, they were at Berkeley Square. Were you at
Okay.
that show too, 6 months later?
No, I was at so it was 924 Gilman in Berkeley.
So that must have been June of '95 then.
Okay, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
Okay, so tell me what you remember about this June of '95 show because it is one of my most listened to live recordings. I listen to
Oh
it
yeah.
several times a year because it is the commentary itself is absolutely like comedic gold. Chris scoffs at it and is embarrassed by it now, but it's seriously so funny. What do you remember about
What?
that that
What is
June of
he? What is he embarrassed about? Do you know?
Well, yeah, he just is so aggressive at the show, and
Right.
he looks back on it and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I could never just stop running my mouth for like 2 seconds." So he just kind of looks back on that era of his life as being like, "Oh gosh, if somebody would have told that kid to just shut his mouth for a while, maybe we could have actually done a little bit more productive things." I don't know. He
Yeah,
he
yeah, I
finds
know.
it to be an interesting period.
I mean, people were definitely annoyed by him, but also people were laughing a lot. I think, like people, I don't know, especially it's that time, like mid '90s, especially Bay Area. Like people were so cynical, and even if you really liked a band, they weren't like I don't know, like people weren't so hardcore as to just like you take everything with a grain of salt and just like kind of just be able to laugh at people even if they're your heroes or even if you like the music a lot you kind of think it's ridiculous. Like he had said like he said go vegan or go fuck yourself, which I think we were just like laughing a lot about because even if it's such a weird way, you don't get people on your side by like saying shit like that.
Yeah.
And also that was just something I never forgot. And when the Thermals got signed to Sub Pop, we had like we were doing posters for the first record. Oh no, we had put it we scratched it on the hub of like one of our first records, like one of the first 7 inches, or
Oh,
on
cool.
yeah, there's etchings on every single Thermals record. There's etchings on the hub, and it's usually like some little silly message. But yeah, so we said go Thermal or go fuck yourself, and then Sub Pop had actually put it on one of the posters for uh for our first record. But yeah, but no one ever knew. We didn't tell anyone it's a Propaganda quote. But yeah, but that's a reference to that exact show. Uh yeah, go vegan or go fuck yourself. We never stop laughing about that. And then also there's one point, I don't know if you can tell on the recording, he jumps into the audience and like it was so crowded that you couldn't see what was happening. But people said that he was like pulling down his pants and they thought that he was trying to take a shit on the floor
Oh yeah,
at
I
the
remember that.
show.
I remember the commentary. The commentary in the lyrics is if you don't stop moshing, I'm going to come down there and take a shit in the middle of the pit
Right.
on the floor. So
Right.
that is definitely in there. All that audio is in there.
I don't think he could. I think maybe he tried, but but it's so weird because Gilman Street is like one of the quintessential, like all ages DIY spaces. Like it's like the promised land for a lot of punk bands. Every band wanted to play there. A lot of bands just couldn't because you weren't cool enough or you wouldn't punk enough. And so the fact that he was like hating Gilman so much when he was there, it's just like I don't know. It was ridiculous. Well, one of the cool things though, that whole lineup, he played with FYP. I don't know if you even
Oh
know
yeah.
them. They're like this. Yeah, they're. I just saw Todd. We played his venue, the Sardine in San Pedro,
Oh great. He was
on
on
this
this
last
podcast.
tour.
He's awesome.
Oh, really? Yeah, I love him. He's so nice, so nice. So yeah, FYP, which is awesome, and which I would see. We saw them play in San Jose a lot, and then also the Yamos, if you know them.
Mm-mm.
They were from like Sacramento area. They were just great. So like the whole show was like super good. Like the whole lineup was awesome.
Man, that is great. And I love that, he's talking about he does the whole America rules thing where people are like debating the goodness of America from between the crowd and the band on the stage.
Oh, right.
And and then they make up instead of like public to service announcement from Let's Talk More Rock where the doot 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 doot, he's got America rules and he's got this songs that he's making up in the middle of it and he's making fun of people's leather jackets and it is
Right.
absolutely like it is complete chaos for the entire time. And they only played 10 songs in the entire set. If you look at the set list, it's only 10
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah.
And then the sound guy has to intervene because he's like, if you don't like the band, just leave. They're almost done. They've only got 5 more minutes. Just get out if you don't like it. So it is just an absolute train wreck the whole time. And I love what you said about how people thought that Gilman was like this like mecca almost for punk in
Right.
the time period. And Propaganda is just like, they could care less about like the notoriety of the venue at the time.
For sure. Yeah, and actually that does remind me that that people were like, it's so weird. It was almost like people were acting patriotic in the audience,
Mm-hmm.
and they were
Mm-hmm.
because they were saying like, "Well, you're from Canada," and he said, I know at one point he said like, "Oh yeah, I'm from Canada. Canada's worse
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
the shit." But
It's
then we're
almost
like,
as bad as
"Really?
my
Yeah,
country.
yeah, yeah." We're like, "What?"
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was
it's weird that somehow like Gilman's the last place where you would think people would act like patriotic and start defending America.
Yeah, he really brought it out of him on that show. And it's really funny to see how quickly the whole mood switches. Because if you would have asked all those kids on the way in, like, what are your opinions on the militarization of, the world and, the militarization of police and foreign intervention and invasion and things like that, all those kids probably would have been very, um, pretty, against those types of things. But man, you put one Canadian punk band on stage who's ripping on everything that the country is doing and all of a sudden they're all like a bunch of little militaristic people. It's really funny how quickly the tone changed.
It's just funny because it's like it's the whole thing. Like I can talk shit about my hometown, but you can't talk about shit. You can't talk shit about my hometown if you're not from my hometown. It's people just get
Bingo.
defensive so quickly when it's someone from somewhere else.
Bingo. I love that.
Yeah.
Have you been able to see the band any time after this mid 90s kind of heyday, if you will?
No, I have not seen them since. Have you seen them recently?
Oh, so many times. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen them 6 times since 2021.
Oh,
So
cool.
I'm still doing it. I'm still going out there and seeing them every chance I get because I presume every time I see them is the last time I'll ever see them because they tour so infrequently that I try not to take it for granted anymore anytime I do get to see them.
Yeah, I feel like I have maybe never heard of them doing a show like since I moved to Portland, but that's been like 26 years. But I never hear about it. I don't know why. Maybe I don't even know what venue they're playing. Do they still play like just small DIY or like underground shows or what?
They do, kind of like mid-sized venues. I saw them in Toronto last year or so, and they were playing Lee's Palace in
Oh yeah, yeah, I
Toronto.
know that place. Yeah, that's
And
great.
then they played at the Terragram or something in
Oh yeah, yeah,
LA.
yeah, in LA. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
they're
cool.
playing
Yeah.
places like that. But
Cool.
they're still doing it, man, but just not very often. They're so elusive as far as seeing them live, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
part of the charm, I guess, unless you're a super fan and you want to see them live as many times as you can. But you just don't take it for granted when you do get to see them.
Right,
Um,
for sure.
so have you tell me what's your favorite material by the band? Like what records by them are you like I really love these particular records?
So how to clean everything. That was like one of those records that I would like look at like a Bible.
Mm,
Um, that record's just great. I felt the same way about Dookie from Green Day, and
yep.
then like From the Cradle to the Grave by the Subhumans. There's just some records that I feel like really sum up a lot of stuff really well. How to Clean Everything is just a really good title. It's really describes just a lot of I don't know. I love a record that tries to be everything to its subject matter. Like it's not How to Clean Everything is very specific, and it addresses like a lot of just what's wrong with the world.
Mm,
Even if it's not exactly a solution, it's just like a, it's a huge expansive record.
gotcha. Okay, well, let's dive into it a little bit. Whenever I was obsessing about your covers project on Instagram, I messaged you just to kind of be like, hey, and what would you do if you were doing propaganda? Because I was thinking like maybe I would request a particular song from you from propaganda. But I wanted to see what you, if you liked them for one, and also what you thought about your favorite one, if like give you some say in the matter. And you said, "Who will help me bake this bread?" as your
Right.
top choice. And I'm wondering if you can go into this song a little bit and tell me what you love the most about "Who will help me bake this bread" from How to Clean Everything.
As it relates to the coverage project that I was doing, I mean, besides it just being probably my favorite song on that record, um, you can see like as doing a cover, I can listen to it and I can hear like immediately um how it would translate to an acoustic guitar. Like a
Mm,
lot of their songs, especially on this record, they're not like easy songs at all, I would say. And I
mm-mm.
don't think a lot of them would transfer super well to acoustic guitar. You'd have to really like simplify the songs. Um I mean, my feeling on that record is like it's like a punk record, and especially it's like a Fat Record style punk record, but also it's kind of like a Van Halen record, like at
Yeah,
some points. And I know that's like intentional, and I think there are references on the record, to like, I mean, obviously to like 80s like glam pop and like hair metal. But Who Will Help Me Bake This Bread? Like I can just hear immediately. Um, it's mostly three-ish chords, like in the verses, and then um, later at like the climax of the song, I think he adds, it kind of goes to like a big major chorus, like the "I Won't Bleed for You" uh,
right.
part. But I think mostly like when it's "I Speak My Mind, I Question Theirs," it sounds to me like it's just like E minor, C, and D. It's like it's a simple, a very simple line. So yeah, that was one, because a lot of the songs I was covering, or not a lot, but every so often I would just choose one, that no one had requested, and that was yeah, that had been on my list for a while actually.
Nice. I well, if you ever whenever you get back to it, we will revisit having you do a cover for Who Will Help Me
Cool.
Bake This Bread sometime down the line. And the song, it's got these very specific ideas in it. I speak my mind, I question theirs. You know what I mean? So there's this tone about it. What does the song mean to you in the context of like your own life? Like what's it asking you to kind of think about as a person in the world who is going about your life, like in relation to all these other people around you that may disagree with you and things like that? What does this song ask you to consider?
I feel like it's reaching out for help. Obviously, to who help you bake this bread. I like that title because it's more poetic than a lot of the songs on the record, and it's using a metaphor that a lot of which is a thing that a lot of the songs are not doing. Just like to say, "Who will help me bake this bread?" It's not literal bread. Um, yeah, but it's not the fact that he's asking for help uh, is different than just telling you how it is, which
Hmm.
which I think a lot of the songs are doing. Um, it's not preaching. I mean, it is still kind of preaching, but it is reaching out in a way that the other songs aren't, I think.
Gotcha. That's cool. I love it's like the little red hen reference as well. It's pretty cool to think about whenever you dive into the title. I love that title. So 6 months later, after How to Clean Everything comes out, another 7-inch comes out. It's called How to Clean a Couple of Things.
Right.
And whenever I asked you to choose a couple more songs beyond Who Will Help Me Bake This Bread, one of the ones that you listed is Pigs Will Pay, which we made an episode on that song for this podcast a couple of years ago, and it stands as one of my favorite episodes that we ever made because of how much it caused me to dive into the issue that's being discussed in the song in current events and
Uh-huh.
realize that this is such an ongoing and pervasive multi-generational problem that it really made me expand my own view, even in my late 30s when I was researching the content of the song. So tell me a little bit about why you picked Pigs Will Pay as one of your favorite songs.
It's super catchy. One of the great things about Propaganda, especially if you're looking into like very punk or bands with like very serious, very political lyrics with like a social and political message, a lot of times those aren't like the most fun songs to listen to.
Hmm.
So one of the great things about Propaganda is that the songs are super catchy and super listenable and fun while they're still singing about a lot of horrible things that are going on in the world. And so
Yeah.
many bands cannot say the same thing. Like once you start singing about those subjects, they get bogged down in a lot of times the songs are just not fun anymore.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And, I think about this tune a lot because as we see like things like wealth inequality growing and, the ways that the cop jocks kicking ass line about the war machine protecting the wealth of the employing class. I really like these lines because it's so catchy, it's so memorable, but it asks us to like kind of pay attention to a problem that continues to get worse every single year, it seems like. Especially now where cost of living is just so incredibly high and big cities in the US seem to be like havens for like the ultra wealthy. And so I don't know, this song really just gets me thinking about stuff like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a thing where it's hard to tell, like, is it getting it's like it does feel like it's getting worse, but at the same time, it just like seems like wow, it's just always been a massive problem uh as far as you look back.
What are you noticing in Portland with regards to this kind of stuff? Are you still in Portland?
I am, yeah, I've been here since 98.
Yeah, there's like this
Yeah.
the cop jocks kicking ass and the wealth of the employing class. It's like basically like the cops are doing everything they can to protect this teeny tiny minority of people's property at the expense of all kinds of other people. Have you seen anything like that going on in Portland?
I mean, you definitely did like in the protests around like the Black Lives Matter protests. Um, people like to say riots. It's not really riots. There some things did happen. I mean, you definitely see like the cops stepping in to protect, like the mall,
Mm, yeah.
and the and you definitely see them stepping in to protect wealth over people, over citizens. Um, yeah, I mean, Portland has, so many cities here have gone through like such a rough time um in the last, since Trump, since COVID.
Hmm.
Um Portland is one of these cities that the media will not shut up about no matter what, good or bad. I feel like when things were going really well here, like around 2010 to like, 2000 teens or so, you would just hear about Portland all the time, and so many people moved to Portland, and I mean, so many people are still moving to Portland, and now that Portland's just going through a really rough time with crime, which has finally gone down a little bit, but was getting really bad. Um, again, you just hear people talking about Portland all the time. It would be nice if people could just kind of leave Portland alone for a little bit. Um, but the people I know here that grew up here um, aren't as like concerned about what's happening to Portland now because uh, to them, I've been told, oh, this is just what it used to be like in the 90s and in the 80s.
Mm,
It's just, it's just going through hard times.
yeah. Did you have a copy of this 7-inch How to Clean a Couple of Things?
I think I must have, yeah, because I don't know how else I would have known that song
Yeah.
back in the day unless, oh no, you know what, someone may have put it on cassette for me.
Yeah, this is a good one. And I'm just like, it's such a criminally forgotten song. And then I was so delighted that in 2013, when Fat did the 20th anniversary of this album, that they put this song back on the record.
Oh
They put
yeah.
Homophobes Are Just Pissed Because They Can't Get Laid back on the record. So if you go and look at How to Clean Everything
Right.
now on streaming services, or you buy it on vinyl from Fat Records, you get the full package of songs that were cut from the album in the first
Oh,
place.
cool.
So this is all back on there now. So if you bought it now, it's there, or if you stream it, it's there.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
nice. All right, so let's chat about a third song. The obviously one of the standout classics, Nation States from Let's Talk More Rock. What was your thoughts
Right.
on Let's Talk More Rock when that one came out? Were you a big fan of it right away, or was it did it hit you hard?
I didn't like it as much as the previous record, and I also knew that I knew that song Nation States from the I Spy
Yeah.
split 10-inch, and it's a different recording.
Uh-huh.
It's definitely more lo-fi, but that song is just epic. That song is huge. I always loved that song. And I just re-listened to the Less Talk More Rock version, and that, I mean, it kicks ass. It's so good.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but I'm forgetting now what other song. I think there were 3 songs on that 10-inch, but yeah, they're just great.
Yeah, that's an amazing one. And you brought up Todd Congealier from Recess Records and
Yeah.
FYP earlier, because Todd released that album on
Right.
Recess.
Right, I forgot that.
So you know, if you whenever you run into him down in his town, if you're ever at his place where he stores all the Recess record stuff, you got to ask him if he can bust out some like test presses, like old Propaganda and I Spy stuff,
Oh
because
yeah.
he's got it all. So on that record is the overtly political but oh so intensely personal song. We've got Nation States, we have Woe Is Me, we have Oka Everywhere, and we have Haile Does Hebron, which is, another version of Haile Selassie from How to Clean
Oh,
Everything.
right, right.
But man, Oka Everywhere is the other song on that 10-inch that people absolutely love and miss because of how important it was for the crisis and standoff at Kanasatake in Quebec in the early 90s for that summer when they were trying to like take over that town, or that take over that indigenous land to extend a golf course. So that record, man, it has some absolutely amazing stuff on it and super important, and it's very beloved. Do you have a copy of that 10-inch sticking around in your house anywhere?
I used to, but I was just trying to find it right now. I think I sold it. I sold all my cool records. What
Yeah.
else I sold? I think is that I used to have the Where Quality is Job One,
Oh yeah.
double 7-inch.
Yep.
I couldn't find it either. But that was
Well,
great. I don't know if you ever had that one. It
I
had
do.
Oh yeah, so it has those locked grooves at the end where it just like I think it tells you to like go fuck yourself at the end of one of them.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, Todd. So I interviewed Todd Congealier. So if anybody out there listening and wants to know the backstory of all the strange vinyl that came out from Propaganda on Recess Records, I think it's on episode 44 of this podcast. But Todd
Uh-huh.
and I talked about all of the really hilarious stuff that he and Chris Hanna planned for
Cool.
Propaganda's releases on Recess, and
Yeah.
the locked grooves and the very bizarre artwork and the lo-fi stuff. I mean, that's all like a very intentional practical
Absolutely.
joke between those two guys, and they thought it was
Right.
absolutely hilarious.
And I think those it's the double 7-inch and it's supposed to be piss and shit colored vinyl,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Jesus. And I think there's no label on the hub. There's just there's just like an inscription,
yeah,
right? There's just like drawings or whatever, just
yeah.
scrawled
There's
on
no
the hub. It's
stickers on
pretty
the center.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very unique piece of music history from punk rock. And if you ever get
Yeah.
a chance to like take a peek at it again, it's so funny if you haven't seen it for years. Whenever you get your hands on one, to just be like, wow, I'm in my 40s and I'm looking at this these very crude inscriptions on the center of this record, and you kind of just are transported back in time to being like a little dopey teenager where
Oh,
you
for
just find all
sure.
this stuff so funny. It's like and it really cracks me up to dig that record out. I love looking at it.
I mean,
um
for me, like that's how I learned. Like we did a locked groove on a thermals record, and we did like inscriptions on the hub. All that stuff to me was just like so cool, and that was all like stuff you just had to do. Like I thought, if you're not like if you're not inscribing something on the hub, you're totally just like wasting your time because that's just like such a missed opportunity to kind of put like weird little secret stuff on your record.
I love that. Does so Nation States obviously is a very big picture song lyrically. Does anything really stand out to you about like the message of the song, or kind of what this song meant to you at the time and place in your life where you were like coming around on thinking about big ideas about the world?
Oh, I mean, everything about it. I mean, I'm pretty sure I was 18 when when those records came out, and that was just they're just like huge for me. Like for me, it was just like at that age where you're kind of learning. Um, I feel like we grew up, or I grew up. You kind of think adults have everything under control, and
Hmm.
that most of the decisions are being made are for the good of of society and for humans. And then very quickly you realize, especially if you're getting into punk, you're just being shown that most of the adults in charge are, at best, like inept, and
Yeah.
at worst have the absolute opposite intentions. They just have the worst intentions for humanity. Like the
Mm.
people who are in charge are out to screw you, are just like doing what is worse for humanity. And I feel like that song, I feel like they own us, they produce us, they consume us. Yeah, it's very sad. It's a sad song. But it's hard not to see the truth
Right.
in the lyrics.
Well, the thing that really jumps out to me is like just something I'm thinking about right now. I was thinking about this yesterday a lot, where I'm hearing a lot about the falling birth rate in the United States and other, Western countries that are trying to get people to have more kids. And a huge part of me is just thinking like all they want is more people so that they can keep their Chick-fil-A drive-throughs staffed for the next
Right.
few decades. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like the people who are screaming about birth rates and things like that are just worried that the people who are underneath them, there's going to be fewer of them to serve their interests. And they're really worried about that because it will directly impact their ability to exploit people. And so that's just what I've been thinking about a lot, especially in relation to this song, too.
And that's a big part of outlawing abortion too, is that you need those people to be born so they can, feed into the system, so
Yeah.
can they
Oh,
can
boy.
yeah.
Heavy. Do you so you've already mentioned some of the ways that propaganda kind of inspired, maybe directly and indirectly, the thermals. Do you have any, records that are like the most propaganda-ish of the stuff that you've worked on in your career?
Oh yeah, The Body, the Blood, the Machine, for sure. And that
Yeah.
was, that was our most popular record. That was people's favorite record of ours still to this day. And I hadn't set out to make like a political band at all. The first Thermal's record, is not political at all. The second one, a little bit. The second one is when we got George W. Bush for a second term, and it's like, where it's post 9/11. It's moving into like 4 more years of George W. Bush. It's crazy to think back on, we were so it's crazy to think that there was something, like whatever, 15 years before Trump even, but it was
Yeah.
still, what was going on was really bad. And in some ways it was worse because it was people who are actually a lot better at getting stuff done than Trump and his people. People like Dick Cheney, who actually know how to manipulate the world. And anyway, I'm sure Trump and them are getting better at it. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, but, by the third Thermals record, it was all out. For me, that was what wasn't being talked about so explicitly was the connection between religion and the far right, and just how much of like U.S. policy was being driven by Christianity. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of what our record was about.
I absolutely love that record. And you probably don't know this about me at all, but for my whole career, for the last like 13 years, I've been a religious studies teacher for high
Oh,
school
okay.
students.
Uh-huh.
And so whenever I put this record on, it's like God reached his hand down from the sky, flooded the land, set it afire. I was immediately like, oh yes, this is good. So
Awesome.
it
Awesome.
immediately connected with me just because of some of the content that I teach in my English classes
Oh yeah.
for my high school students. So that's a record that just speaks to me so completely, and I've loved it ever since I heard it. So I'm
Oh,
glad that
awesome.
I'm
Thanks.
glad that we can get a little bit of attention on that record because
Oh
it
yeah, for sure.
friggin' rocks.
Oh, thanks,
Um,
man.
Well, Hutch, thank you so much for being here. Where would you direct people's attention if they want to follow along with what you got going on?
For me, the best way is hutchharris.bandcamp.com. That's all my stuff is there. And then for social media, I am mostly just on Instagram at Instant Anxiety.
Excellent. You got any tours coming up in the future? Are you thinking about getting back out there again?
I'm gonna do some Northwest stuff in a couple months. Besides that, I try to not tour.
Right.
When I get offers, I usually say yes to stuff, but overall, I'm happy at home. I love recording and just kind of working on stuff here and hanging out with my dog in Portland.
I love
Um,
it.
yeah,
Well, Hutch Harris, what a pleasure. I'm so glad that we got to chat about those early 90s shows, that 93 Christmas show and then that Gilman show. Those are some really cool moments to connect you to this band. And I'm grateful for your commentary and your time and the music that you've put out over the years. I enjoy all your stuff. So I'm just really delighted that we were able to hang out today and chat about propaganda, music, and more on Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda.
yeah. Thanks so much for having me.